Welcome to this edition of Weekend Review. You know, the last few weeks we've been giving you an overview of the inner workings of the Loma Linda Broadcasting Network, and we're going to continue that today, talking to our newest employee. His name is Thal, and he has an interesting story to tell and a very great responsibility that even though you don't know it, every time you watch LLBN, you're watching something that has Thal's fingerprints on it. Let's find out more with Ganem.
Thank you, Marlon. My guest today is Thal Saibat. He is one of our young workers. Thal came to us as a volunteer, worked with us for months. I didn't know him. I met him one day. I was impressed by his technical savvy, and he continued volunteering for months more. And then the opportunity came along where we can hire him to work for us in a very unique function that we think, based on his skills, that he would be the great fit for that. And as time went on, Thal has been a true success story for the ministry of LLBN. Hi, Thal.
Hi, Leonard. Hi, Ganem.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. I want our viewers to kind of know what goes on behind the operation. And Thal, your background is in what? Your education?
My background is in graphic design and 3D animation.
Which makes you a very technical person in terms of being media savvy and how you manipulate software and functions and so on. Thal, when you came to us, you were volunteering. How did you hear about LLBN?
Well, I recently moved here last year, and I was looking for something to do, some sort of studio to be a part of. And I came across LLBN through internship.com, looking for motion graphic designers. And then I decided to come and see what the operation was about. And when I got here, I see so many talented people being part of this ministry.
And I know you've committed yourself and you helped us for quite a few months. And then this job came along. So we want to share with our viewers, what do you do here at LLBN as a paid employee? Your job is about scheduling and programming our television channels. And often people say, well, again, what does that entail? Would you explain that to our viewers?
Well, my job is to input each show in the correct time slot and according to when it will be played and what day. I mean, it sounds simple, but the process is quite complex. It's organization and being meticulous and having each show being shown at the correct time and the correct episode. So
what kind of technology you are using here? And well, don't get into technical, just kind of give us a snapshot.
Well, we have a database out in New Jersey, and which is for each 7 networks that we have. And I'm responsible for 3 of the networks. And from here, I access the database in New Jersey remotely, and I can program each show accordingly.
So this is kind of a portal, a software. You open up through your computer, but it's really connecting you in real time to New Jersey data center.
Yes.
As if you were sitting there.
Yeah, correct.
And as far as we're concerned, you can do it from anywhere around the world.
Correct.
Okay. So that kind of give the viewers, you know, how deep and complex this technology. So you get in with your own password and your login, and you said you enter 1 program at a time.
Yes.
We're talking about 168 hours a week of programming per channel. You do that one by one.
Correct. And I do that for 3 networks.
3 networks. You repeat the same process.
Yep.
And then how about like the announcements and the spots and the...
Well, between each programs, there's spots, which can run from 30 seconds to 90 seconds, and each of them will highlight something about the ministry itself, about LLBN, or announcements, or just donations, or just any announcement that LLBN wants to present to its viewer.
Right, station IDs and things like that. So how do you decide what program goes where? How does that start?
Well, I work closely with Marlon and Hannah, and they provide the scheduling of the time slot that they want each show to be played in. I follow their direction closely, and then be constant communication with them is the key into providing the best service.
So Marlon and Hannah, just to kind of explain that to our viewers, they work initially in designing the program layout for the week, which is very complex, and then they turn it over to a programming committee, and the programming committee goes through changes or modifications or recommendations, and it gets all refined, and I think goes to them for final approval, and then it comes to you. And what you're saying is you go through one program at a time for an entire 168 programs per network.
Correct.
And you find enough time in a day to do all this?
Yes, I do, and I do all this on a part-time level too. So.
And you do multitask with other areas of the operation.
Yes.
Do you find this is easier for you because of your background to deal with something that complex?
I do. With being a tech savvy or computer savvy, I find computer less intimidating. If there's a problem that happens, I tend to be able to address it myself before I go into panic mode or something.
Right, and you're a researcher, obviously. I mean, I've seen you go out and explore possibilities and improvements and so on. Well, folks, we're just so blessed to have guys like Thal and gals like Jessica, who we will also catch up with her hopefully in the next few weeks. A pool of young people are passionate, hard workers, dedicated and committed to LLBN. And most of all, they fit in as a family. Do you feel kind of isolated? Do you feel like you fit in with the family of LLBN? What's your impression?
I feel like it's part of family. We're a tight-knit group, and it's a small office, so you tend to get to know each other very well and closely.
Well, wonderful. We thank you so much for taking on such an awesome responsibility to maintain 3 channels. And again, in the upcoming weeks, we will not only invite Jessica and a few others, but we want to bring you those who also program the other networks as well, because precious, wonderful people, and you ought to meet them. Now let's go back to Marlon Paley to tell us what's next.
Well, from the newbie to the, well, let's say Leonard has a great deal of experience. That's because he's been it all. He started as a volunteer, and then he was an employee, and then he was a volunteer, and well, let's find out what he's doing right now with Ganem here on Week in Review.
Thank you, Marlon. This week, we caught up with another special partner here at LLBN, Leonard Cummins. Leonard Cummins has worn many hats with LLBN. He was an employee, not an employee, rather a volunteer in the early inception phase of LLBN over 20 years ago. But then he went away and came back because he was, you moved around town, and came back and volunteered again, and then he left, and then he came back and became a full-time employee and left again and came back volunteering, and now he volunteers along with holds a part-time job with LLBN. So Leonard, it's good to have you here, and especially with that rich and old history with LLBN.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Leonard has done an incredible job serving the ministry of LLBN in so many ways. And one in particular here, it's a very crucial part. And if I'm going to take a moment to kind of tell the viewers, if you ever wondered, how does our Sabbath hours operation work? We go from church service to music to programs to Sabbath school. We rubber band all kind of programs in between the church service and Sabbath school. And Leonard is one of those key people who's there almost every Sabbath. So Leonard, tell our people, or give them a little picture of what happens on the Sabbath.
Well, on Sabbath morning, I come into the office. I turn on all the equipment. I check to make sure we're getting a signal from the University Church. And I check to make sure that our weekend review is ready to go, that spots are ready to play. I check each one of them out, play it to see if the audio is good. Then what I do is I have a team member come in, and they will sit there at the console, and the church service will then come on. Before the church service comes on, though, however, we put up a logo. Make sure that there's no black areas in the program. When the church service comes on, we flow right into the church service, play the church service in its entirety. Then we have a space, a period of time between the church services or Sabbath school to fill in. So what we do is we usually fill it in with what we call Week in Review, spots, music, all kinds of things, scriptures.
And so on after the Sabbath school to
the Sabbath school and the last
and you even
service.
do that after Vespers.
Yeah, and we
you?
do it after Vespers as well.
Okay. How complex that whole operation?
It can be very stressful. If the church service, for example, tends to go on a little bit over, we have to sit and calculate how much time do we have left. Do we have time to do all these spots and everything? So what we have to do is we have to look at the time on each one and say, okay, we can't do this, we can't do this. So it gets stressful.
So you have to deal with a lot of last-minute judgment call.
Yes.
To what you pick and choose based on their length and timing, so you don't bump off something else or you don't cut off the church. And you don't.
Correct.
It is complex, and I've seen that operation. In doing so, how many hours do you think an average Sabbath takes to support such activity?
Well, I usually come in about 8 o'clock on Sabbath morning, and with a lunch break, I usually take half an hour to an hour for lunch break, and then I come back and I'm there until the end of Vespers, and usually a half an hour after Vespers is over with to fill. So I would say close to
That's 10,
10
11
hours, 10, 11 hours a day.
And that's if nothing goes wrong that day.
That's if nothing goes wrong.
If it goes wrong, it can lead up to midnight sometimes. We've had some cases like that. So you rubber band certain programs between church service, Sabbath school, and so on, but also you keeping an eye on our transmitters in New Jersey and Pennsylvania as well?
Correct.
Okay, talk to us a little bit
check
about
the
that.
schedules, make sure that the schedules are all set up for our live broadcast, make sure that we have the length that we're supposed to have for each live broadcast. Then I also make sure that things are uploaded to them that need to be uploaded to play later on.
So without losing our viewers with the technical components, so not only you are playing programs in between, you're constantly checking on the transmitters in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, you are scheduling and recording everything the church sends us on that day so you can have it for the replays as well, correct? And then also you're making sure all the encoders or the transmitters from our facility to New Jersey working, and it's pretty complex. So we want to just kind of give that flavor to our viewers, and in the future we'll have you come back and talk a little bit more about that. But you have other team members, you've got a pool of volunteers and workers come help you?
Yes, at this time we have about 5 volunteers that come in various different times. Not all of them are as tech savvy as others. Some of them will come in, will just supervise, while others will come in and do the actual encoding, recording, and playing of the different spots and stuff like that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leonard, for being with us. This is unfortunately all the time we have. And folks, what he does is not like the old days where you record a VHS machine. No, this is all software-driven, computer-based programs, and it has many remote connectivities around many parts of America, the world, for us to make that circle of Sabbath programming complete. That's what LLBN does for you week after week. Let's go back to Marlon.
Well, I hope that's given you an idea of what the real story is going on here at LLBN behind the scenes with these dedicated people. Now, even though they're paid, they paid missionary wages, and we need more missionaries, and we have to turn to you for that. We need your financial support to add more Leonards and Thalls and Jessicas, and oh, the list could be forever. But we don't have that much time. So please, consider us in your gift giving, and as always, remember us in your prayers. Don't forget to visit the website to see the VOD, that's video on demand, of some of your favorite programs. And also, don't forget to call us or write us. We love to hear from you, and we really appreciate your letters. So until next time, this is Marlon Paley for Week in Review right here on the Loma Linda Broadcasting Network.